Can you actually read tarot for yourself? Yes, but maybe not in the way that you think. Hi everyone, my name is Joe Monteleone, tarot expert, mystical misfit coming out of a wormhole near you to jailbreak some reality, so let's get started. Can you read tarot for yourself? Well, this very question is not too far from the one question that underlies all mysticism and all philosophy for thousands and thousands of years, and that is, can you know thyself? It was the catchphrase of the Pythia, which was the Oracle of Delphi. Remember back in the day in Greece? I don't know. And all types of esotericism is asking this question, what are we? How do we know ourselves? How do we become the sovereign consciousness that was born of fate to rule the world? Well, that's for another video. But in this video, there are some interesting philosophical and maybe neurological implications of this question. See, asking the question, can you read for yourself? It's kind of like asking the question, can your tongue taste itself? Can your eyes see themselves? Can your ears hear themselves? It's kind of like taking a mirror and facing it against another mirror and watching the beautiful infinity feedback loop that happens between the two of them. Or like bringing a microphone and bringing it next to a speaker and hearing that weird noise. It's infinite feedback loops. And Robert Anton Wilson beautifully names this the arena of strange loops in his book Quantum Psychology, which is a whole other wormhole that I won't get into quite yet. But can we conceive of ourselves clearly? I believe in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no, because we are looking at ourselves and we have to ask, well, who is the self we are looking at and what's looking, right? But there's still stuff that we can do. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm going to give you the best fail-safe ways to read tarot for yourself in a healing, practical way for self-development, self-reflection, and magic. So let's get started. So first I want to talk about what not to do when reading for yourself. I would say the most important thing is don't read for yourself if you are really attached to an outcome. Because what happens here is it creates a charge. It creates an energetic charge of what you want to happen and what you don't want to happen, and then it goes like this. So when there's a charge, we put up a wall, there's an attraction, there's an aversion, we're in the world of samsara, which we are anyway if you're watching this video probably. That's going to put up a block, it's going to put up expectation, rejection, separation, aversion, and we're not going to be in a neutral space to receive the full message. What is that neutral space, you ask? It is the axle in the Wheel of Fortune, that center point that all mystics and all spiritual seekers and all of us are trying to find after all these years. That moment of peace, when we can just receive the whole universe. If you're not in that place, then your reading is going to be biased by that pull of energy. And that's allowed. It's okay. We all go through it. But when I read for myself, and especially when I'm reading for somebody else, I try to find that neutral space where I have no attachment, where I'm willing to receive everything that shows up in their energy, psychically, from their guides, from anything, without a bias. And when you do that, by the way, it's very healing, especially for clients, because you become the space that invites their fullness. And when somebody is feeling welcomed in your space, they will not leave you alone, trust me. Anyway, that's number one. Number two, I wouldn't read if you're very emotionally involved or have a lot of feelings about, especially a prediction. Because when you're very flustered, when you're very anxious, when you're very emotional, what's going to happen? The cards are going to reflect that. I mean, how many times have you or I or anyone, whoever I'm talking to, how many times have we pulled cards anxiously, and the cards just reflected that anxiety or that worry? It happens all the time. Because why? The cards are mirrors of us, of the soul. There are 78 memes of consciousness that reflect us and show up when the energies align. And that's why some people say like, oh, the cards are trolling you, or they're kind of like dissing you. They're just reflecting what you're going through. So what can we do in terms of reading for ourselves? Well, we can do something even more fun. We can invoke, we can create, and we can ask questions. So instead of looking at the cards for yourself as a predictive tool all the time, you can pull a card and ask a question like, what energy, space, frequency, vibe can I be to create more abundance than the whole universe? And pull a card. And whatever card that is, you can look at that card and say, how can I invoke this card today to create more fun with ease, joy, and glory? When we're doing that, we're asking a question. And when you ask a question, you activate these quantum particulates in the universe that vibrate to make things happen. It's kind of like when you scroll on your iPhone to delete something and all the apps start shaking because they're nervous because you're going to kill one of them. Everything shakes and vibrates, and the dance of life is there available for you to start dancing with. Questions are great. So maybe we don't have to look for a specific answer, but we can look for a question within the tarot deck that will change all reality and all non-reality to create more fun for all of us. Now, when you invoke energy, you can do this in any way. You can use intention. You can look at the card and say, how can I, let's say you pull the devil card, for example. How can I invoke the material world to work with me today? Doesn't that feel good? Instead of the devil. You can carry it around in your pocket all day. You can put it by your altar. You can put it under your pillows. And this is actually how I work with the tarot naturally at this point in my career. Though I do pull readings, I give readings all the time, my relationship with tarot is much more contemplative. It's much more about invoking the energy of the cards and working with them as they exist in my body and my psyche and my mind and my higher self, which is a really fun thing to do. Joe, that's another video. So simply ask open-ended questions. Ask what you can do, what you can create, what energy you can invoke. I'll give you an example of this. In the past few months, I was pulling cards for a choice regarding career. And I had to make a choice, and I had to make a choice to do something later on over here or right now over here. This is the timeline, by the way. So my intuition told me to do it later, but the cards told me something different. So I asked the cards, what would happen if I do this later on? And I got the Tower. And then I said, what would happen if I do it now? The Queen of Swords. Now that was weird because my intuition was telling me to do it later. So I had to grapple with myself, and we've all been there when we feel like we should do something, but the tarot's telling us something else. What do? Well, what ended up happening was I chose to do the thing in the middle of those 2 points in time. And that's just what my intuition told me to do. I said, screw this card pull, I'm going to do what I want. So I did it in the middle. A couple days later, I was meditating and contemplating, and I was like, oh my God, that's the Queen of Swords. That's the card that I got for do it now. And she wasn't telling me do it now. She was telling me do it in between the 2 points in time that you were thinking about. Because what is she? She's the Queen of Swords. She's Libra, which is balance. Whoa. So sometimes the context can be a little tricky when we're reading for ourselves. But I always say trust your intuition. And by the way, intuition is a very humble voice. It doesn't need to prove itself. The mind, on the other hand, always needs to prove itself. So follow your intuition. It's energetically higher up anyway. But let me know your experience. Do you read for yourself? What do you find fun? What do you find daunting? If you found this video helpful, give it a subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. Share it to your tarot groups. And I hope to be making more stuff soon. I'm not an influencer, but I am a teacher of tarot. So if you're interested in that, go to tarotwithjoe.com. There's a really fun Thoth tarot guide that you can download for free. And if you're interested in working with me, hit me up. I will always geek out with tarot with you. Much love. See you in the next wormhole.